Hello and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show, the only podcast in real estate investing that teaches what you need to know to find and flip deals right now. Wow. Break free the chains that are holding you back and join us on this episode with Jason Lucchese.
Hey, what's up? It's Jason Lucchese and welcome to the No Flipping Excuses Show. I've got a great show for us lined up today. We're going to be talking about wholesaling, deals, and getting deals done and making money. That's what you guys know. We do this with the No Flipping Excuses Show. We talk about different strategies on making money, creating wealth for yourself. And I've got a good guest of mine here. His name is Jaelin White. Jaelin, how are you doing, my man?
What's up, Jason? I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Things are good. Things are going good. So, Jaelin, man, we were supposed to meet at the Mark Evans event not too long ago, but you went out and did a road trip there, and that's awesome, man. And I was able to grab your information. I know Mark, spoke very highly of you, and I wanted to invite you onto the show today so we could talk a little bit about your business and you could share some of the wealth with some of our listeners.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, I think for most of us, real estate's our life. So any opportunity I get to really talk about it, it's like, exciting time,
Nice. So Jaelin, for those listeners out there that don't know about you, man, why don't you give them a little bit of a background of, who you are and what you're all about?
Yeah. So, man, it's a long story. I could drive everybody crazy, but underneath this hat, I've got Justin Bieber hair, so I've always looked like kind of a little punk. I'm 21. And I flipped my first deal when I was 18 at, 2 days before high school graduation. I don't know why I remember that 2 days so vividly, but I sure as heck remember coming in, that you have to sign off on all the stuff to leave school, on like the last day of real school.
Yeah.
And I was showing my wire to my friends, like 12 grand in my bank account, like, yo, look at this. I told you guys I wasn't fooling around when I left for second semester switching to online school, because my school had an online option and my parents had moved away and I was sleeping on people's couches. And so, ended up like, get some money in the bank. And then, from there, just continued, spending a lot of money on marketing, doing big direct mail campaigns, losing money on some direct mail campaigns, spending 8-10 grand at a time, that first, couple of years. And then, scaled up and now I have a few full-time employees and we're just, banging out deals.
Nice, man. That is awesome. I think you're the youngest person that we've had on the show to date. And I know that's pretty incredible, showing your friends a $12,000 wire in high school. I'm sure that they're pretty much freaking out, maybe thinking you were doing some drug dealing or whatnot, because not everybody comes across 12 grand like that.
Yeah, no, my grandma actually called my parents because we went on a trip and, like, to make a long story short, I had all this money, right? And so, I took my girlfriend, now my wife and stuff, and, she called my parents and said, he's laundering money, I think, like freaking out. I was like, man.
That's too funny, man. So at 18 years old, you had the drive and passion to get this going. What was the driving force behind, somebody at 18 years old, just finished up high school? What was that drive that made you want to get into real estate investing?
Man, honestly, I don't mean to sound superficial, but it was just to have enough money to buy a nice car. Like, how you're 18, you got the Lamborghini on the wall, you're thinking about all the luxuries. In reality, it was ultimately because I just wanted freedom. Like, I didn't, my parents moved away. I don't have rich parents. I've got 5 younger siblings and, look at the poverty lines, they're not financially super strong, with 5 kids, under their roof or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So they moved away and basically I was sleeping on people's couches and I was tired of, having to hear other people wake up in the morning and clanking around while I'm sleeping on the couch. And, it's like, you can't live. Some people are okay living like that, not having a reliable car or a car. I didn't have a car at all when I closed my first deal. They're okay with not having a car. They're okay with, sleeping on other people's couches, eating other people's food. I wasn't okay with that, even at 18. So ultimately, I wanted to be able to go out there. And And it kind of morphed, you know, honestly, you know this as much as I do, making 100K a year, 200K a year in real estate is easy. So that first 200K, the motivation to get there was selfish, more freedom for myself, more nice things for my wife and I, you know. And then from there, we started really growing because I want to be an impact on my family, you know, be able to have enough money to support everybody when they need to be supported.
That's awesome.
And, you know, ultimately make that impact there. But yeah, my motivation was pretty shallow when I was, you know, 17, 18, trying to get into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, well, dude, that's, you know, pretty much all 17 and 18-year-olds at that point. That's the flashy stuff that they want. Let's talk about that first deal you did, man. So how did you find it without having a car? And how did you get that deal done? Obviously without having any cash and pretty much almost at that time, pretty much no credit. So how'd you get that first deal done, dude?
Yeah, man. So basically my wife had my girlfriend, now my wife, I'll just refer to her as whatever she was in that time period. So my girlfriend, her dad, heard this free seminar, right, on the radio, like Rich Dad Poor Dad or whatever. So he's like, hey, you know, you guys are probably going to want to buy your first house when you're done with college and stuff. And so, because, you know, I was able to get a scholarship to college if I had wanted to because I'd got good grades. So I was thinking about going to college. But anyway, so he's like, you know, let's go to this free seminar. So he took us, and this was in like February of 2018. And so I just remember hearing like, hey, you could close, you know, 10 grand in 2 weeks. Like they were talking all these big deals and people doing lease options and fix and flips. And the room was full of, you know, because they make their money off selling $50,000 packages, you know, so most of the room's thinking, you know, about that stuff. But I was broke. So we're hearing the 10 grand per deal, right, in 2 weeks. And so basically went home, learned on YouTube how to do it, follow people like Sean Perry, Cody Sperber, watched a few videos of his, you know, just anybody. And really, honestly, it was the little mom and pop wholesalers who made videos. Like there was this girl named Steph. There was this guy named TJ Hines that I watched. And really, those two people there had the biggest impact because they're sitting there. They're like everyday people. They're not like celebrities, you know. They're making videos, everyday people closing deals, right? So I watched those videos, and I end up taking like a little side hustle with this dude in my local market who was selling coaching. And so he would put out bandit signs, right? And so I was putting out bandit signs for him. And he one time mixed in accidentally when he gave me 20 We Buy Houses signs, right? And so I had this big stack, and I get home, and I'm preparing them for that night, and I'm like, should I give these back to him or what? So I held on to him, and like a week later, he still hadn't paid me for the 100 signs I put out for his coaching stuff. So I'm like, what? That's fine. I'll keep these 20 We Buy Houses signs. So, you know, Brianna's dad went out and was helping me, you know, went to help put him out with me because I didn't have a car ability to drive, and we were in the hood. So, you know, he was nice enough to go out with me in the morning and do those. So I had done like 5 or 10 signs here and there, like where I make my own signs. I spend the money I made, like doing side jobs and stuff, you know, $50 here, $100 there. And I put out those 20 signs, and, you know, I was already prepared to, I explain this, but people don't realize I was for 2 months calling agent, you know, listings on Zillow, calling for sale by owners, like getting, you know, making a fool of myself. So all of this 2-month period of practice led up and failure led up to the little bit of luck that I had putting out 2 signs. Got a call from my first deal. It was a guy who was like, you know, hey, I got this junker property. My dad gave it to me, and I haven't been there. It was literally a shack. Like it was totally in the hood. It didn't have a floor. Like there was no floor, straight to the dirt. And so he calls me, and long story short, we settled on 15 grand. I used the 1 page. Looking back, oh my gosh, I might as well have wrote it on a napkin. Like I used the 1-page contract I got from that Rich Dad Poor Dad thing, and then you know, used an assignment contract I found on the internet and found the buyer. Actually, we didn't even use an assignment contract. I signed the same contract with another guy because we can do, you know, back-to-back closings in Arizona. So you know, we did a double closing on that, and I ended up walking away with 12 grand. I sold it for 30, you know. And I made minus closing costs. So
nice, dude.
Everybody
That's
was
great.
happy.
Nice. Well, that's awesome that you were able to do that at such a young age. Now, let's flash forward. Let's talk about your business now. You said you have some employees. You're able to scale up. You're able to realize that, true wealth is really made when you could take yourself out of doing everything and really put on that CEO hat. So let's talk about your business today. You said you're mainly focusing on wholesaling. What does that look like nowadays for you?
Yeah, so basically my goal nowadays is to spend at least 10 grand a month on marketing. And some months obviously are better than others. This month, I think we're at 5 deals so far, and it's the 24th, cool. So it's kind of a slower month on what I'd expect to get, because we shoot for about $1,500 expenses per deal in Memphis when we're working our Memphis deals. Yep. We are mixing in a bit of the other states I've had success with, so like higher margin deals on the West Coast. And so that's kind of a reason for, the slowdown this month. But you know how it is in business. Like 1 month you might do 4 or 5. 1 month you might do 10, 12. You make 150 G's. The next month you make 30. The funny thing is my overhead's like 15 grand a month. And I get pissed if we make only 30 or 40 grand revenue that month. But it's still like double our expenses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You're sowing seeds for the next month to be, or 2 months, 3 months down the road to be huge months. Right, and it kind of all evens out to. I'm shooting for a 10x return on our marketing expense. We don't always get there, but that's kind of my goal nowadays. And then that's my great, team, dude. The way that's laid out is I have a sales rep. His name is George. He basically his job is just follow up with the leads, take incoming calls, follow up with our cold call leads, stuff like that. He makes 300 calls a week. I try to get him to push it to 100 calls a day, so it would be 500 calls a week because he works 5 days a week.
Yep.
But I found 300 calls a week is his hotspot. I want him to send at least 8 contracts a week. He typically, honestly, gets about 4 contracts a week typically. Now, nice. A lot of them, because we work Memphis, a lot of people owe a lot of back taxes. We have some floodplain issues that we work through sometimes and stuff like that. So typically, 25 to 30% of those end up going dead just because of those issues. So he does get a lot of contracts. And then, like I said, we shoot for typically 2 deals at least that are real deals a week. So yeah. And then Natalia, she does transaction coordination. She also helps on the sales side because obviously, like there's not 8 hours a day, 5 days a week of work always to do on the transaction coordination side. So she'll take incoming calls and, tee them up for George to close. We do all of our contracts over the phone. The way it works for that process is we'll send the contract via, a virtual, DocuSign, or we'll, send a notary out to the property. And it's all subject to interior inspection, and the expectations always set prior to that, which is, we're buying these properties from out of state. We appreciate what you told us about the condition, but obviously we need to get in there before closing. So we'll send, one of our, they're not professional inspectors, but it's about $50 per visit, sometimes $100 depending on, if it's like last minute and stuff. We're like, hey, can you get over there? Here's some extra money.
Right.
They'll go there, take pictures after we've got the signed contract, and then sometimes we'll have to renegotiate. Most of the time, honestly, we're pretty good on the pricing. I think maybe 10% of deals, maybe, maximum, maybe 5. Typically are like not a deal. So 1 in 20 is like not a deal because it's too trash. But
yeah, no, I hear
people
you, man.
are surprised how well that works for us. So,
No, that's really good, man, that you're able to do something like that. One of the things that a lot of our listeners have, especially if they're not a licensed real estate agent, is, if you're doing another area, I know you said are you from the Arizona area?
Yeah. That's where I was born and raised.
Okay, so you're doing deals in Memphis now. Is that an area that you live in?
No. Never
okay,
been there.
so how are you guys doing your comps to come up with your numbers if you're not a licensed real estate agent? Just, I know a lot of listeners always, that's like the number one question that they have.
Yeah, funny enough is most people overthink it. We have always done just Zillow and Redfin. I've never used MLS, and I have MLS access in Arizona. I hate it because it's slow, it's clunky, in my opinion. I love Zillow, I love Redfin, and honestly, a lot of the stuff we do in like the Midwest, is all reverse. So we don't go by comps. We go by what people in the marketplace are paying for wholesale deals, right?
Sweet.
So we have our core group of people who, buy these contracts off of us. And obviously we're always finding new ones. So it doesn't mean like you get okay with the amount of people that you have, but we might know, 3-1 in this area, we can sell immediately for 25. Maybe we can push it to 27, 28 with a new person, via contract assignment. So that's kind of the way we go out, is building the profile of what the property is going to be worth to us to assign, and then kind of molding and keep in mind that's in the Midwest. For us, when we do deals in LA or Phoenix, it's all based off comps, and Zillow and Redfin have always worked perfectly for us. And I will go toe to toe with anybody who wants to see who's better at comping, and I will be just right up there with them at Zillow and Redfin, and Talia will too, because she does our comping. So.
No, that's awesome, man. We've done on some episodes before that you could use the sold comps on Zillow to come up with the numbers that you need, because a lot of people think you need access to the MLS, and you really don't. Redfin, we also use too. I agree with you. I'm glad that you were able to share that with the listeners as well, because everyone always thinks they need that license. So that's awesome, man. And I appreciate you sharing that. So what would you share, like, as of right now, what would be your top 2 sources for getting like deals? Not counting the MLS. I'm assuming that you don't use the MLS for, a good portion of your deals, but
we should, because there's a lot of deals still on the MLS.
There are deals. We get deals off of the MLS. So I'm not saying that's bad. There's plenty of deals on the MLS, but what would you say is like some of the good sources you've been using?
Yeah, so for us, what kills it, and anybody who maybe seen my content knows, we do cold calling. So that's what we focus on. So we have a team of cold callers who deliver leads to our acquisitions. It's a very different model compared to like direct mail and PPC and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because you get a lot more leads. So instead of converting 1 in 20 or 1 in 25, you might be upfront, like that month on the marketing, 1 in 100 leads, right? And then over a course of 2 or 3 months, you get another deal from that pool of leads, so you end up at 1 in 50.
Sure.
But when your cost per lead is like $20, it's like, it's kind of incomparable, because you might be 1 in 25 on direct mail, but it's $100 per lead, right? So your cost per deal is $2,500 versus, maybe $1,000 or $1,500 on cold calling. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult to keep it running consistently, as in, because we have a calling manager who manages all the callers.
Yeah.
And, keeping all the lists fresh and stuff like that, it can be a little strenuous, but at the end of the day, that's the kind of extra work that gets you that extra margin on your deals. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be able to just go from $2,500 per deal on direct mail to $1,000 or $1,500 without any extra work, right?
Sure.
Like that's where we create that extra value there to get deals. So that's my main marketing source. And we honestly are mixing in bandit signs as well. I'm trying to systemize where in virtual markets we can put out, 2,000 a month. Because honestly, man, every time, maybe it's been the same for you, I've never been consistent with it, but every time we get 500 signs put out, we get at least one deal. So it's like, 125 a week or whatever, and pay somebody. So it's like, why not throw an extra $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month into bandit signs? Because they've always worked. You know what I mean? Especially in the markets I've done them in. So trying to bring some of the simple back with bandit signs. That's probably one of the things but the hard thing is finding consistent people who can put them out for you, and then, and then systemizing that process. So it was tough with cold calling a couple of years ago when we started systemizing that, but hopefully now we can systemize doing some bandit signs too.
So with the systemization of the cold calling, have you set up like a team to where that's all they're doing is just, they're on a dialer system and they're just making cold calls to neighborhoods?
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much for anybody who's interested in starting to cold call, a good intro like cold calling system would be mojosales.com.
Yep.
They're great. It's like $160 a month per seat. You want the triple line dialer. And typically somebody who's working 30 hours a week will be able to make 3,000 dials on there. They'll get a hold of about 300 people, and they'll get maybe 10 to 20 leads. So somebody who's working 30 hours a week. So keep that in a factor when you're thinking about, hiring people and stuff like that. And that's kind of, our KPIs that we look at as far as that goes. So.
Yeah, we use Mojo as well. We use the triple line dialer, and whenever we have private partners come in, that's all we do is we show them how to get that system up and going. And man, like we could knock out if we're just doing that all day long, you could easily knock out the 3,000 calls we did. Right. I think the most we ever did, like in 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, was about 750 calls. It was pretty wild. But when we're showing folks, brand new stuff like that, and we get, we've seen the data, especially for getting phone numbers, is from Cold Realty resource. They've been really good with their phone numbers and their data actually being extremely accurate. I haven't actually used Mojo. We signed up for Mojo's for sale by owner stuff, but it hasn't really panned out that well for us yet. Where do you feel like your phone numbers have been best at?
Yeah, so needtoskip.com has been my number one resource for getting phone numbers. Needtoskip.com.
Okay.
So yeah, that's been above and beyond anything else I've found for the price. So that's my go-to for numbers.
Cool. So needtoskip.com is a site. Also, too, a really great website for getting free skip tracings is fastpeoplesearch.com. That's another good website. It's extremely accurate with being able to find direct access to homeowners.
Fast People Search?
Yeah, fastpeoplesearch.com. It's free. Now, you have to be specific on who you're typing in. If it's a Joe Smith, you're probably going to find 50 Joe Smiths. But it's insanely accurate as far as being able to find that information out. What
we've been looking for, like a good single person search, and I like Intellius, but Intellius hasn't always been the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and TLO for another skip tracing service, but it's very hard to obtain. But TLO is definitely one of those good ones out there. So Jaelin, as we're going into wrap up mode, what would you say to somebody that's brand new? Obviously, you're a young dude. You're crushing it. You're doing some really amazing things. You've got teams in place. You know your numbers, so you're doing business the right way. Which most people, they still don't know. What KPI is, key performance indicators, and what cost per leads are, all that good stuff, what you're supposed to know from a business standpoint. You're only 21 years old. So dude, what would you say to somebody that's brand new, that might be, double your age, and they're just kind of freaked out to just do this? What would you say to them?
Yeah. So number one, I did it the wrong way. Okay. I did it with literally $0. Okay. I was very lucky, to be honest. Most people, you at least have a few $100s extra per month. And it might be sacrificing that, that 5-star dinner with your wife or whatever for a month or two. It might be sacrificing that new Yeezy drop. I know so many people who spend $300, $400, $500 on Yeezys before they'll invest in their marketing, in their business. Yeah. So my advice to you is figure out how to spend $500 a month on marketing and how to put that money aside, because in reality, if you just have a job, you could probably carve out at least a few $100 a month. If you read The Richest Man in Babylon, they'll talk about it. Typically taking 10% of your income, the average person makes $3,000 a month. And if you have a full-time job, you're making less than $3,000 a month, you should change jobs ASAP. Because now as an employer, I'll hire you if you're a skilled person for more than $3,000 a month, So that's what I'd say, is figure out how to find a job that's gonna allow you to spend $500 a month on your marketing, and then go out there and just pick one marketing stream and be super consistent with it. And the other thing is honestly, I'm a big believer in education. After my first deal, I bought Sean Terry's course. I don't know if you're familiar with Sean Terry.
No, I know Sean.
I bought Sean Terry's course. It was $1,000 after I just made, $12,000, dropped $1,000. Even though I already closed my first deal, I already knew all there was to know. And if I hadn't got that, my first year would have been much different. So I actually also have a course, and I'm not going to plug it too long, but I have a course as well. And I can tell you that just being in that group of people, that environment, spending that little bit of extra money will make a difference for you as far as your motivation and your game plan goes moving forward. Because the strategy really, it's so cliche, people say it, strategy is only 20% of the battle. Even when you're trying to scale to millions of dollars a year, strategy is only a small portion of it. The rest is mindset. It's what are you going to do when you spend $1,000 in marketing and you don't get a deal right away? But you never know. You keep going. Next month you make 40 grand, you make back your $1,000, and then 6 months from then you get a deal that makes you 20 grand from that first campaign, right? It's like you never know. And as long as you just keep going with it, you plug into the right group, right? You can ask the right questions or whatever. You follow in podcasts like Jason. You keep the motivation going as much as you keep the strategy going. That's going to carry you through to fulfill that strategy of focusing on one marketing campaign. Maybe it's Bandit Signs. I'd recommend Bandit Signs. Obviously, I got my first 2 deals from Bandit Signs.
Yeah.
And then, just staying consistent on that, moving forward, and then never stopping to invest in yourself. We were talking, I just joined a mastermind that cost me, about, 25 grand. So, it's like if you're not thinking about, you might be afraid of investing, a few $100 or a few $1,000 to go to an event or whatever, to get into a course, but you don't realize that it's just going to keep growing. And eventually you're going to be making, $500,000 a year, and then you're investing 25K, 100K, and then you get, it's all a journey, and you just have to keep consistent. That's like the most important part. So,
oh yeah, consistency is huge. And yeah, I highly recommend the masterminds, man. It's even in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book. He talks about masterminds all the time in that book. I highly recommend it. I know you mentioned Richest Man in Babylon. Is there one really good book that you've read recently that you would recommend? Any like business book, motivation book, any type of a leadership type book that you've read recently that you would recommend?
To be honest with you, I don't read a lot just because my mind gets cluttered really easily. I have ADD. Okay. And so to be honest with you, the book that has been giving me a lot of wisdom in my life has been the Bible. And I've always kind of been a believer, but I've never really read the Bible. And so reading the Bible has given me a whole different view on what I do. And another book that, because a lot of us, we just have a hard time being okay with wanting to have a business. Like we feel greedy almost. It's the same thing for me. Like even when I first started with my course, I felt scared to mention it and stuff. And I have a bunch of free YouTube videos and stuff. So I was always scared to mention it, but I didn't realize, and I started seeing the success stories coming through. I didn't realize how many lives you're changing by just taking that action, So it's kind of just realizing to have that wisdom to realize that, you're not just doing it for yourself. Find ways to actually impact the people along the road, and you'll be much happier, because people just focus on money. They're never going to be in it for the long haul. So honestly, that's the book I've been reading every day. It's in the Bible. I don't mean to be cliche to anybody.
You're not,
I'm
man.
21 and I'm just new to getting in, and actually learning the real meat and bones of everything. So, and then Think and Grow Rich is the other one, because it focuses on, you don't realize that it's just put a strategic plan in place, hold on to that desire, that burning desire, and, through auto suggestion and goal setting and stuff like that, and allow that motivation to carry you through to actually acting on that strategic plan. Because most of us, we're like, oh, I didn't make the money I want to make this year. I didn't make the money I want to make last month. And all you have to do is ask this, simple question for wholesaling, for example. How much did you spend on marketing this month? Okay, cool. How many leads did you get? Okay, I got 50 leads. Okay, cool. How many calls did you make? I think I made 12 calls or something like that.
Right.
Okay, that's why you didn't make, okay, there you go. You did not follow. And it's deeper than just following the plan. It's because you didn't have the motivation when that lead called you at 9 a.m. and your girlfriend or wife's laying naked next to you, and you're like, okay, I don't know if I should take this call, but at the end of the day, you got to hold on to that motivation to be able to take that call. So that's why I recommend being plugged into a good group and stuff like that, so that you're surrounded by that greatness, you're surrounded by that excellence, and you're surrounded by that go-getter mentality 24/7, so.
No, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. So Jaelin, how can folks reach out to you? I know you said you had some content, you had a training program. Do you have a website that people could visit to find out more about you?
Yeah, I recommend my YouTube channel. I have over 50 free videos on there, and I don't upload every day, but I definitely, I at least throw a couple videos up there, every couple weeks or whatever, and I already have a ton of free videos on there. So
Awesome.
That's what I'd recommend. Also, obviously, Instagram's great, but I do read all my YouTube comments typically, as many as I can, and I do read a lot of my Instagram direct messages, again, as many as I can. So,
Okay.
yeah, those are the two, ways that I think people can easily get a hold of me. So.
Nice, dude. Well, that's cool. We'll definitely direct people over to your YouTube and Instagram pages so that they could start following you and start getting some of the good content that you have out. I appreciate you being a guest on the show today, Jaelin. For those of you of our No Flipping Excuses listeners, if you enjoyed this show, you enjoyed what this young man is sharing. He's only 21, did his first deal at 18 years old. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I have, make sure you leave us a 5-star review, leave us a comment. Let us know something that you got away from today's episode. We would really enjoy it. If you need anything from us, you could go to support@jasonluchesi.com. And my last name is spelled LUCCHESI.com. That's support@jasonluchesi.com. But that's it, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. I will talk to you on our next episode. Take care. Bye now.